legalize nuclear bombs.
I don't really fuck with them. Yeah. All you do rappers don't be talking about shit except doing drugs. Wonder how you got a name, damn. Sippin' lean, taking E, Percocet, purple drinks, Xanax, everything sound the same. Fuck. Bunch of drug addicts in the house of pain. Woo. Hope you niggas suffer till you pop a vein. Yeah. This should make your mother wanna ovulate. Yeah. This should make a doctors wanna stop a train. You spend the movie product, don't you? Back when I was broke and no one knew me. I couldn't afford it, and now that I got the money, I don't even want this shit, cause it ain't for me. I always been myself, you don't know me. Yeah, I was so depressed, I was lonely. The man on the horse, all I had was Ralph Lauren, then I went inside a deal and bought a pony. Yeah, I'm taking it back and then I'm smacking you bitches and laughing, and I'm killing, I'm hacking and I'm sending your body right back to them. You wonder what's happening, I'm flipping new syllables, acronyms, like it's been practicing. You fuckers are fucking embarrassing. You ain't gonna be happy when I'm on top, and I'm gonna be popping on you, gonna be dropping like birds dropping all on your conscience. All you niggas are watching, I'm spitting, slapping all on your coffin. I'll repeat you lost, and you fucking think when you pillow talking, and you dream all day, that's per year.
How's it going, guys, and welcome back to another build video, this one on WMD Moze, an Iron Bear build focusing on making use of Hammerdown Protocol, which seems to be another step in what is quickly becoming a personal journey to try to make use of all of Iron Bear's hardpoints, even those goofier ones. But while lesser used, Hammerdown Protocol definitely has some punch behind it, having some crazy mobbing potential while also being able to nuke bosses off the face of the earth. But with that all being said, let's get on into things. We're going to start things off here with our weapons, in which I'm usually running a Dark Army or a Boogeyman while I'm actually in Bear, as both of these have effects that work as long as you're holding them while you're inside of Iron Bear. The Dark Army gives you some drones which are able to fire at nearby enemies, however you aren't getting the full effect of the Dark Army, as we can't really reload it to get the increased damage and elemental of the drones, which is why I do tend to prefer the Boogeyman, especially for mobbing, as on kill with the Boogeyman it has a chance to summon a Ghost Stall which will chase down nearby enemies, dealing a pretty decent amount of damage to them. Though neither of these weapons are really necessary and is more of just a little additional bonus to your mobbing potential. The important part is the Anointment, being the while Iron Bear is active, Vanquisher rocket pod damage is increased by 150%. As of course that is a huge damage bonus, being even better when you factor in the fact that it is in fact V2 damage, being a damage type that Moze doesn't usually have a lot of access to. I do also tend to carry around a Flipper as my weapon of choice for when I'm outside of Iron Bear, however I'm really not outside of Bear often. But this isn't the only option, of course. You've got plenty of other options available. You just want something that is high damage and strong enough to get you kills while you're outside of Bear. But as we'll get to in a second, you're really not going to be in Bear often. And finally, the Zaitsev's Eruption. You can also carry around a Servos Execute. Both would achieve the same goal in being a debuff gun for bossing. Damaging a boss with the overheat of this applies a debuff, making them take increased damage from all sources, which of course includes Iron Bear, giving us a huge multiplier on top of the massive damage that we're already doing. And while this is unnecessary for a lot of bosses, a lot of tankier bosses, this will still let us one-shot. Coming to our gear, pretty much the only shield I ever run is an Old God, as this is just going to give us some extra radiation damage, which outside of incendiary damage, Moze doesn't really have a lot of elemental damage boosts, meaning the Old God is pretty damn good and is one of the few options available that will actually increase the damage of Iron Bear. You might think the Revolter is an option, but while this is a global element, unfortunately it does not apply to Iron Bear. But what is a more defensive option is of course the Plus Ultra, doubling your health pool, which also doubles Iron Bear's health pool. And combining that with a double health roll, you're just getting an absolutely insane amount of Iron Bear health. But I really don't think that this is necessary at all. I think Iron Bear is able to stay up more than long enough, especially running a CMT that has, while Iron Bear is active, taking damage has a 20% chance to spawn a grenade. Between that and Vampire, I think Iron Bear stays alive more than long enough. The only time I find myself getting knocked out of Iron Bear is if I just decide to fucking stick my face into a barrel. Now for bossing, instead of a CMT, I do instead use an It's Piss with on grenade throw. Weapon, grenade, and action still damage are increased by 25%, and this is simply of course because it's just going to give us significantly more damage. Especially when used with the Zaitsevs, it's just another way of debuffing an enemy, making that debuff even bigger, and that Anointment is just straight up giving Iron Bear even more damage. While it's not always necessary to use, again against tougher enemies, this is still going to let us one-tap them. But on our shield, I do run after exiting Iron Bear. Kills increase Iron Bear's cooldown rate by 30%. You can also run the generic cooldown rate on Action Still End as well. Both are very effective. This is again just to get us into Iron Bear a bit faster, though again this is very unnecessary and it is kind of just the best anointment that we have here. The reason that this is unnecessary is that while we do run the flare for damage and is what we have equipped a majority of the time, I do carry around an Eternal Flame in my backpack so that when I fall out of of bear, I can quickly equip this, fire off a couple shots of the flipper, and instantly get back into bear. We do stay in Iron Bear so long that this only happens maybe every couple of minutes, so it's really not that obnoxious to do, but this is more of a quality of life action than actually necessary for this build to function. It just means that you're outside of Iron Bear for a less amount of time. Now you could be thinking, well, why don't we just use Raging Bear? Raging Bear is a fantastic class mod and incredible for a lot of Iron Bear builds. However, for this one, we kind of just want everything that the flare has more. It's significantly more damage, with the drawback being that it's less bear uptime, but this isn't even entirely true. We run Never Going to Give You Up, Deadlines, and Running on Fumes, meaning that if we launch a nuke into a big group of enemies, our fuel is going to go right back up to 100% pretty consistently. Enough so that I really don't often feel the difference between the flare and the Raging Bear when it comes to uptime. What I do feel the difference in though is damage, and because of that, I find the flare to just be the better option for this setup. Of course, the rolls that you want on your flare, ideally just getting the most into stainless steel bear for stills, but really it's not super necessary to focus on your stills. More so you want good passives, with the two most important being splash damage and action still damage. And finally here for our relic, I pretty much always have on a Atom Bomb Victory Rush, as there's really not many other relics that will do too much for Iron Bear. Victory Rush is V1 damage, being a very nice bonus to our damage formula, while also giving us move speed to help us get around a little bit better. The Atom Bomb prefix is giving us more damage on our radiation chains, while also giving them more AoE. While we definitely have enough AoE as is, this just gives us that much more and lets us completely wipe out an entire area of enemies in a single click. Again, the passives that you really want here are action still damage, AoE damage, preferably in the second or third slot, as that will also give you radius, and radiation damage. Now moving on to our skills and starting with our biggest tree, the purple tree. We started this tree with really big guns, of course just being an Iron Bear damage still. Being a Iron Bear damage build, we definitely want this. And biofuel just giving us a little bit of health regen. This is mostly just to move down the tree, and same with big surplus, surprisingly enough. As I've mentioned many times, we're really not outside of bear too much, meaning that we really don't get a lot of value on a big surplus, but we do want to be getting down to tier 4 and beyond in this tree, so we need to spend these points. Big surplus and biofuel are just what I found to be the most valuable for this build, as Harmonious Havoc doesn't really synergize well with any of the guns that we want to be using, along with only being valuable for Moze. We don't really need any fire rate on Moze, and we are already applying more than enough status effects as is. We grab double time just to get a little bit of movement speed, but coming down to tier 4, we grab Never Going to Give You Up, giving us fuel return every time we apply a status effect, and with how fuel hungry firing off nukes can be, this is definitely a very important skill to have. Along with that, nitrotronidium engines being an incredibly valuable pickup, giving us more maximum fuel, which being percentage based, does also buff up Never Going to Give You Up. Now I do leave this at 4 out of 5 and instead dump the final point into feature creep, as this is more Iron Bear damage and that damage resistance is kind of okay, but if you don't feel like you need this, you can easily just go 5 out of 5 into nitrotronidium. And finally we grab our capstone Running on Fumes, so that after igniting an enemy, Iron Bear stops passively consuming fuel. This doesn't prevent it from consuming fuel at all, and our weapons are still going to be. However, with how much they already consume, being able to not passively consume fuel is incredibly helpful. I'll also mention it quickly, I'm not going Limit Break. You could take points out of nitrotronidium engines if you really wanted Limit Break, but again, I'm using the Eternal Flame for cooldown, so I don't really need cooldown in any of my trees. Moving on to our blue tree though, we of course start out with Fire in the Snag Den, incredible still for Moze out of bear, incredible still for Moze in bear. This is just giving us a shit ton of incendiary damage on top of all the other damage that we're doing. Deadlines to get even more fuel return, this one activating on kill, and similar to Limit Break, I'm not picking up Grizzled just because I don't really need it. Again, you could probably move points around to get more into Grizzled if you are not running an Eternal Flame, but if you do have access to the Eternal Flame, I really just recommend it. Toward cross promotion, more splash damage, bigger splash damage. Stainless Steel Bear just giving us an insane amount of Iron Bear buffs, increasing our maximum fuel, our armor, and our damage. I do grab Auto Bear as I do have to spend this 1 point somewhere, and this is kind of just the most value I can get out of it, which then gets us down to Vampire, where I can spend 1 point to be able to actually pick up Hammerdown Protocol, while also providing us with a hell of a lot more sustain. Coming to our green tree, we start out here with 5 points into Cloud of Lead, giving us just a little bit more incendiary damage damage on both Moze and Iron Bear, but really this is just to get further into this tree, as Daka Bear is kind of pointless to us, and so is Match Scent. 3 points into Stoke the Embers, getting an increase to all of that incendiary damage that we're doing, and 2 points into Scrappy, once again just to move further down this tree. These 2 points can easily be put anywhere else, but again, between Redistribution, Daka Bear, or Match Scent, I think Scrappy just comes out on top. 5 points into Scorching RPMs, gives us fire rate and crit damage, but that is not the main purpose of this, as it is also a 25% Iron Bear damage bonus. And really the entire point of coming into Green Tree, we pick up Specialist Bear, which is a 60% Iron Bear damage increase as long as we are using the same weapons, which of course we absolutely are. And finally the Orange Tree, 5 points into Armored Infantry, once again just to move further down. Could easily take a point out of this and put it into Security Bear if you wanted to, but really it doesn't matter. What we want is these 3 points in Drowning and Brass. Unfortunately, I really couldn't get 5 points into this without giving up things that were significantly more impactful, but Drowning and Brass is an incredibly good skill. While it doesn't directly say it on the card, Drowning and Brass does actually give damage to Iron Bear, and it's definitely a pretty noticeable damage boost. But yeah, that's about do it for WMD Moze. You guys now have the knowledge of how to rain down nuclear winter onto your enemies. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, definitely consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, all that. I'll be live right here on YouTube and also over on my Twitch channel, where you can find a link to down in the description below. And just below that is a link to my Discord server where you can come and join and hang out. But with that all being said, I hope to see you guys in the next one.